Malaysia. A nation that only gained independence in 1957 and yet built one of the most remarkable stories of development in all of Asia. In less than 7 decades, this country went from a British colony to one of the most prosperous and dynamic nations in the region. It has been led by visionary strongmen, reformers and survivors. Some of them transformed the country beyond recognition. Some divided it deeply. And a few left behind legacies that Malaysians are still debating today. This is every Malaysian Prime Minister from the very beginning all the way to now. Tunku Abdul Rahman. Tunku was the father of Malaysian independence, the man who negotiated the end of British colonial rule through diplomacy rather than violence. He became the first Prime Minister when Malaysia gained independence on the 31st of August 1957, leading the country with warmth and a genuine belief in multiracial harmony. He championed a Malaysia where all races could live together, and his relaxed and cheerful style made him one of the most beloved leaders in the nation's history. But ethnic tensions eventually overwhelmed his vision, and following the racial riots of May 13, 1969, he stepped down. He remains the father of the nation to this day. Abdul Razak Hussain. Razak took over in the aftermath of the 1969 riots and immediately set about rebuilding national unity. He introduced the new economic policy in 1971 designed to reduce poverty and restructure the economy to give the Bumiputra community a greater share of the nation's wealth. He also shifted Malaysia's foreign policy, opening relations with China and reducing dependence on the West. He was a disciplined and hard-working leader who dedicated his entire life to the country. He died in office in 1976 from leukemia, one of the most respected prime ministers Malaysia has ever had. Hussain was the son of one of Malaysia's founding fathers and came to power following Razak's death. Known as Bapa Perpaduan, or the Father of Unity, he focused on national reconciliation and clean governance. He was deeply principled and fiercely opposed to corruption, a rarity in the politics of the era. His health deteriorated during his term and he stepped down in 1981, handing power to the man who would go on to define modern Malaysia. Mahathir Mohamad, first term. Mahathir is the most consequential prime minister in Malaysian history. He served for 22 years in his first term from 1981 to 2003, transforming Malaysia from an agricultural economy into an industrialized nation. He built the Petronas Twin Towers, once the tallest buildings in the world, the North-South Expressway, Putrajaya and Kuala Lumpur International Airport. He was bold, visionary and often authoritarian, cracking down on political opponents and curtailing press freedom. His Look East policy encouraged Malaysians to adopt the work ethic of Japan and South Korea. He was a leader who built a country with one hand and tightened his grip on it with the other. Abdullah Ahmed Badawi. Abdullah came to power in 2003 on a wave of public optimism, promising clean governance, transparency and an end to corruption. He won the 2004 election by the largest majority in Malaysian history. But his administration was seen as too slow and indecisive, and the 2008 election delivered a serious blow to the ruling coalition for the first time in decades. He stepped down in 2009, unable to recover his political momentum. Najib Razak. Najib came to office promising transformation and modernization, launching the Economic Transformation Program and introducing Malaysia to the world as a rising nation. But his tenure was overshadowed and ultimately destroyed by the 1MDB scandal. Billions of dollars of public money were allegedly stolen from a state investment fund in one of the largest financial scandals in world history. He lost the 2018 election in a historic defeat, ending 61 years of unbroken rule by the Barisan Nasional Coalition. He was later convicted of corruption and sentenced to prison. Mahathir Mohamad, second term. In 2018, at the age of 92, Mahathir returned to power, making him the oldest elected leader in modern world history. He led the Pakatan Harapan coalition to a historic victory, defeating the party he himself had once led. He promised reform, accountability and the prosecution of those responsible for 1MDB. But his coalition collapsed in 2020 in what became known as the Sheraton Move, a political crisis that brought down the government without an election. Muhyiddin Yassin. Muhyiddin came to power through the backdoor politics of the Sheraton Move, taking office in March 2020 without winning an election. His government faced the enormous challenge of managing the COVID-19 pandemic, which hit Malaysia hard. He introduced multiple lockdowns and oversaw the national vaccination program. But his razor-thin parliamentary majority made governing almost impossible, and he resigned in August 2021 after just 17 months in office. Ismail Sobri Yaakob. Ismail took over from Muhyiddin and became Malaysia's 9th Prime Minister. He focused on economic recovery from the pandemic and tried to stabilize a deeply divided political landscape. He called a snap election in late 2022 hoping to win a stronger mandate, but the result produced Malaysia's first ever hung parliament. Anwar Ibrahim. Anwar is one of the most remarkable political survivors in Malaysian history. He spent years in prison on charges widely seen as politically motivated, becoming a symbol of reform and democratic change for a generation of Malaysians. He finally became Prime Minister in November 2022 after more than 2 decades of struggle. His unity government brought together former rivals in an unprecedented coalition. He has focused on economic reform, anti-corruption measures, and restoring Malaysia's international standing. But governing a coalition of very different parties has proven deeply challenging, and his popularity has fluctuated as Malaysians wait to see if the change he promised will truly arrive. From Tunku to Anwar, more than 6 decades of leadership, independence, nation-building, scandal, and resilience. These are the men who shaped Malaysia into what it is today. Which Prime Minister do you think made the biggest impact? Let us know in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Malaysian history. Who do you believe made the most difficult decisions during their time in office? Which leaders' policies do you think still shape Malaysia the most today? Do you think rapid development under strong leadership comes at a cost? Was the new economic policy more beneficial or more divisive in the long term? How should history judge leaders who achieved growth but limited freedoms? Which Prime Minister do you personally admire the most, and why? Which leadership style do you think suits Malaysia best, strong control or open reform? Do you think Malaysia is better today because of its past leaders or despite them? What qualities should Malaysia's next great leader have? Do you think Malaysia is moving in the right direction?